This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening and welcome to the Caffeinated Cooper Show. I am here with Greg Allison, which is known as Green Greg's on YouTube, as well as greengregs.com. I've got a little intro here. So usually I'm not looking at the person while I'm reading the intro and you're in the green room, but he is right here live. So he gets to react to the intro that I've been able to piece together. Basically a lot of what I've watched on YouTube and from greengregs.com. And if you're just listening to it, it's greengregs.com. So Greg Allison is the founder of Green Greg's Worm Farm and greengregs.com. And he is an educator within the realm of gardening and survival education via his podcast. His farm offers the finest composting worms for gardening, mostly redworms, with some blues and Alabama jumpers mixed in. His worms are great for composting, pet food, fishing bait, and much more. Greg has been in the worm business for 10 years. He's also the founder of his YouTube podcast, which has millions of views and subscribers since 2014. He also offers a lot of educational videos on his website. Additionally, he covers many other topics too, such as chemical-free gardening, aquaponics, microgreens, wild edibles, and medicinals. And I particularly love the videos on prepping, and that would be survival tactics. So welcome to the show, Greg Allison. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So I want to know, how did you become a worm farmer?
Well,
let's start there.
It started with a simple question. My day job is government contracting. And even though I've been on this current job that I'm on now for almost 19 years, it's had a history of instability, and it's all at the realm of politics. And prior to this job, it would be like, 2 years, 1 year, 4 years. It would be very sporadic. And it's all, you never know what the budget's going to do. So I asked myself a simple question. And that was, how can I make a living on my own 2 legs, on my own 2 acres? And that was one question. But the other thing was, I had gotten interested in growing an organic garden because I started studying more and more about the junk that's in the food we get. And I thought, I need to be growing my own food, and it needs to be clean food. Of course, today I'm really worried that we're about food security, food availability, and food prices shooting through the roof. So there's a whole lot more impetus to grow a garden today than there was when I got into it. But this whole notion of worm farming serves both ends of that, because with a worm farm, what I can do is I can grow a garden without having to go to a store to buy supplies, which also fits within the realm of prepping. I mean, if the what hits the fan, we are in a situation where there may not be any stores. You need to have your own food. You need to be able to provide it. Well, most people are used to going and maybe buying plants and setting them out. Sometimes I still do that, but I don't have to. Or they will, they got to go buy fertilizer. They will buy pesticides. They will buy all this chemical stuff. Well, you're not going to have that available. The good thing about worm farming is that worms provide you the products you need without all that chemical stuff. I mean, for example, worm castings are the best fertilizer you'll ever find. They are Mother Nature's own time release nutrient pills. Miracle Grow sells time release. So Mother Nature had Miracle Grow beat from the get-go, from the very beginning, from the inception. Yeah. The beautiful thing about a worm casting, the worm casting is a little bitty worm poop. Because the worm has mucus in its digestive tract that dissolves slowly over time, releasing the nutrients at just the right rate for your plants. Unlike cow manure, horse manure, a lot of other manures that will burn your plants up, or fertilizers if you over fertilize, you can plant plants directly, seed starters, or you can put out plants or plant seeds directly in worm castings, and that plant will grow fast and beautiful. It will love it. It'll blow your mind how well that plant will grow. Another product I make is worm tea. Worm tea is brewed specifically to increase the bacteriological content or even the fungal content within the brew, which you apply to the soil. Any book on organic gardening should start out with, it should be paragraph 1, sentence 1. It should, the very first thing should be, good soil is living soil, because soil is the basis of all your growing. If you go out in Mother Nature, what you're going to see is there's no big birds flying over the forest spraying things to make things grow. It all occurs in the soil because the soil is alive and it's interconnected with bacteria and fungal networks. The fungal networks form as mycelium, and they form dendritic networks like the neurons in your brain. And bacteria will break down nutrients to make them more readily available to your plant roots. But the fungal networks will actually transmit that to your plant, move it to your plant. But see, plants also live in symbiotic relationship, and they say thank you to the fungus and bacteria by putting sugars out through their roots to feed those. So the plants are feeding them. But in what we do in our industrial farming and gardening world is, in yards and everything, is that we apply many things that kill the natural network in the soil. Start with fertilizers. A lot of people don't realize fertilizers kill that stuff. Fertilizers, the pesticides, the herbicides, and the way we till, we destroy our soil. We destroy the living networks that are in it. And the plants are still putting the sugars out, but they're wasting them. They're really trying to feed something that's not there. When there's something there to give them back, it actually makes them grow more. So that's an investment to them. It's kind of like for a human being and investing in something that's going to pay you back over time. You see, that pays back to the plant, but the plant is trying to invest in it, but it's putting it out into nothing. And so it becomes a waste, unfortunately. So if you've got the bacterial culture in the soil, if you got the mycelium in the soil, they will feed that plant without even fertilizers. They will feed the plant from the nutrients in the soil. They'll break them down and make them more readily available to the plant roots, and that plant will grow like crazy. So have, the NPK content of, say, like worm tea doesn't matter because it's the bacterial that works. Now, I actually cheat and use aquaponics water in my worm tea, which does give it a slight NPK characteristic. And so to brew worm tea, what I do is I take a tea bag made out of worm castings, because it's got the bacteria in the worm castings, and I put it inside of it. Now my tea bags are sandbags, a little bit large for a tea bag. Now, for smaller brews, you can use smaller tea bags. Okay, like a 5-gallon bucket with maybe a pantyhose leg in, a stocking leg or something like that would work just fine, with full of worm castings. But I brew in a 58-gallon barrel, pickle barrel, olive barrel most often. And sometimes I brew in 250-gallon IBC totes, and I might use a couple of these sandbags in that case. But you drop the sandbag into the brew, and it only has to stay in there really for 24 hours for it to pick up the bacterial content. Some of the nutrient content too will also go into it. So what you do is you put it in the water and you put a blower in, and you it's got to blow a lot of air. I mean, it's got to just roil with air bubbles. What that does is it promotes the growth of aerobic oxygen loving bacteria, not the stinking anaerobic stuff. And now some people do want anaerobic solutions for certain applications, but you got to be careful what you're doing with that. So, but this is what I encourage you. It's the easiest most people deal with, and it don't stink, believe it or not. It's made with worm poop, and worm poop don't stink, believe it or not. So the cool thing is that that you feed a molasses to make this bacteria to simulate these sugars that plants are putting in the roots are putting in the soil. Put molasses in there. Now, molasses also has a benefit of having a certain amount of nutrients like iron and things like that. Some people actually put molasses in their gardens. So by doing this, you're actually providing molasses to your garden. You're providing some of the nutrients that were in the worm castings, but you're brewing a bacterial mix, and it needs to brew for at least 24 hours. I'll let it brew all week long, and sometimes for several weeks or months even. Now, sometimes the brew will go bad. It might get vinegar, or it might go anaerobic. If it's got a bad smell to it, or it smells like vinegar, throw it away. Start over. Clean your barrels out. Sanitize everything. You got to sanitize it very good, because you don't want the bacteria that causes that. But so that's what I do. And the cool thing about worm tea is it brings, you put it in the soil, it brings the soil to life. It puts some microbes in the soil that break down the soil, make it more readily available to the plant roots. There's some of that in worm castings, but worm tea is concentrated. A thimble full of worm tea has 100,000 different species of beneficial bacteria. 100,000 species. And because there's such a broad spectrum of this, it has many beneficial effects, and also some fungal particles, which can form the mycelium networks. So it feeds the plants when you put it in the soil. But when you spray it on the plant leaves, it has other beautiful effects. It does things like it inhibits the formation of rust, mold. It deters, it actually kills some of the soft-bodied worms and insects and deters other insects from biting your plants. Probably not squash bugs, but you have to have some other techniques for dealing with squash bugs. I can cover that in the future too. But or what I always refer to as stink bugs. But and you might even mix in a little Bacteriotherium genesis to help fight worms more effectively, kind of amp up the type of bacteria that are in it. So there's different things you can do like that to amp your brew up. But the bottom line is you shouldn't have to go to the store to buy anything really. Now you still want to go through the garden and inspect things and pick things off, make sure you look for hornworms in your tomatoes and things like that, or the little green worms, say, on your beans leaves. But so there's a lot you can do that you shouldn't have to, in a grid down situation, go to the store. In fact, what you need to do is grow heirloom seeds, which is also known as open air pollinated seeds. Seeds that these kind of seeds, if you save them from your plant after you harvest a plant and you replant them, you get the same plant back. A lot of your seeds that you buy in the stores today are hybrid seeds, especially tomatoes. It gives you a beautiful big fruit. But when you take those seeds, it's good for one time out, but for the next year, no. You want to get back a different tomato plant than what you just had. So, but there are heirloom seeds that do produce beautiful tomatoes. So I would choose to plant as much of that as possible so that you could replenish your garden for the following years. And because seeds are going to be extremely valuable in a grid down situation. Like if you're carrying a can of food, this stuff here is it's big, it's large, it's only 2 servings. You know how much food you can produce from a couple of little seeds? You get a plant going and can just keep producing. And the seeds are small, you can carry them easily. In fact, I got a video where I talk about how the American Indians during the Trail of Tears sewed seeds into the garments to hide them, so they could take them out of, all their stuff was being stolen from them. And so they could keep them and preserve their seeds and sew them into the garments. And unfortunately, a lot of people died on that trail. And when someone died, the natives removed their garments. And the troops thought that was very primitive and bad. And, they looked down on them for it, but they didn't realize that their life was in those garments. They had no choice. They didn't want to do it. They thought it was barbaric. And they probably thought so too. They probably hated it, but they were trying to save their lives. That was their future was in those seeds they had to hide in the garments. And that's how they kept themselves going when they got to their destination in Oklahoma and places like that. So that's a sad story, but it tells you how valuable seeds are. And if you go to my YouTube channels and my YouTube videos, sometimes I don't post links on a live video I do, but when I upload a video, I will post links. And one of the things I post links to is a tree leaf market where you can get heirloom seeds. And, I have other links I post to for other things, including long-term food storage. But, and which I think is important. One thing you have to worry about is if we have a nuclear war, you may have to wait a few years before you plant your seeds if we have a nuclear winter as part of that. Or there could be other climate adversities that might hit us. 12,500 years ago, a comet hit what was believed to be the Laurentide ice sheet, which covered North America, and it caused a very cold, dry period known as the Younger Dryas. And I believe the year 535 or somewhere along there, there was a very cold summer that wiped out a lot of crops because of Krakatoa blew up in Indonesia. And it really probably precipitated the fall of the Roman Empire and a lot of other empires in America and in the whole world. And then when the volcano Tambora exploded in, I believe 1816, I believe 1817, the following year was known as the year without a summer. And people up in New England were starving to death. That's why a lot of them moved to the Midwest. It really was the impediments to people moving in to settle in the Midwest. And even here in the South, it said that we had frost in, I believe, June or July. So,
oh my goodness.
So
I think people of today are just not prepared for that whatsoever. That would cause absolute pandemonium. I do have a question. So you had mentioned you're on 2 acres of land,
right.
And you have a pickle barrel is the size that you brew your worm tea for. So as you had mentioned, you can use it as a spray, an antifungal spray, and all types of things for topically on the plant. But then it also goes in the soil. And my question for you is, how much yield of that do you need for your?
The regular gardener doesn't need anything more than a 5-gallon bucket. I sell the worm tea. That's why I brew it in larger quantities. I sell it. It's a product I sell. For my own personal purposes, I wouldn't brew any more than 5 gallons. 5 gallons. I mean, if you go around and spray this stuff on your leaves and put the balance of it in your soil, bang, you got it. You're covered. I wouldn't spray it directly on a fruit just because it is a bacterial substance. And in any event, I do also wash my fruits off with vinegar. So as a disinfectant. It's just part of my hygiene protocols that I follow. And when if I harvest grow lettuce, I wash them in vinegar also. Because it is a disinfectant. So it's just a good way to play it safe.
Can we take a look at your website where you sell the worms?
Yes.
And you sell the worm tea. Can we take a look at that real quick? This is greengregs.com. And we're speaking with Greg Allison, and he is going to show us the website as to everything he offers here. So you have, oh my goodness.
So I started this website originally just to sell worms. I sell the worm tea and worm castings local. This is for worms I ship, basically. But I am starting some local things on this website, like living microgreens. I sell microgreens too. And I grow these, and originally I started growing these in my living room. But I'm growing them in a trailer right now. So that's me in my microgreens trailer. If you see my microgreens videos on my YouTube channel, most of those are filmed either in my living room where I was growing them or in my kitchen where I was planting them. So this is my first worm bed really is a plywood box. This is just a 8 by 4 foot sheet of plywood on the bottom and top with another sheet cut in half of the size and half another sheet cut for the ends, screwed together on concrete blocks with a little bit more in the back, so it'd have a slope and holes down here covered with screen wire to drain out. And I was actually for a while brewing my worm tea from the leach that leach through the beds. But I now you can do that, but I do use the tea bag approach now. So what you can see here is, here's testimonial down here from people that have bought worms from me. This is from their own postings. I found them. Actually, I went and Googled most of these and found them that way. Where people would put a YouTube video out there when they. I know a couple of these people. I know this guy. He has a YouTube channel called Oppenheimer Ranch Project. This guy here is called Top Knot. He's actually his place, but he did a video of his own getting the worms. This guy's got a YouTube. Most of these guys, he's got a pretty good YouTube channel too. So you can check out other YouTube channels in some of these videos. And you can see I ship them in these little sandbags like that. So those customers were all quite happy. And
are they expensive?
Well, let me see. I'll go over here to the buy worms. I think my prices are quite competitive with other people right now. Worms have gone up in price.
Okay.
Postage has gone up a lot, and just been a lot of drivers that drove the price. You can get a half pound for $37 a pound for $49. I might pop it up just a little bit because postage has gone up since I have posted these. Right now, these buttons are disabled. If you click them, it won't go all the way through the purchase. This button's still enabled though. When I start reselling worms, probably in June, most likely late June, I will re-enable these buttons. But right now, and there's a note up here just telling you, due to technical problems and my worms just not being as mature, really it's the number that I have that is the issue. That I'm waiting until I've got to have all my beds full. And I did a video of that on my channel explaining that I posted it last week, I think. So just a few days ago, in fact.
So how fast do worms reproduce?
Worms can double in population every 2 to 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So that's the redworm. The redworm reproduces fast. The night crawlers are a lot slower to reproduce. So and redworms can be grown outdoors. That's why I prefer redworms. So this gives you, some contact information and other things. And this is my logo here. See, it's a fish made out of worms and with leaves for the garden, and GG for green gregs. As I sell worms, I've got an aquaponics system. That's why you got the fish.
I love it.
So I cover many things. So my latest has been microgreens. And I've actually been building a house to grow mushrooms in a mushroom building. So I hope to be doing mushrooms in not too distant future. These are purple radishes up here. They're known as Rambo purple radish. And you can see them here, purple radish, broccoli. You get your slithorethane and the broccoli, which has got enormous health benefits. Sunflower shoots, Thai basil, kale, and we grow other varieties too. This is just a sampling of some of the things that grow. Pea tendrils, and I love eating pea tendrils and sunflower shoots. They're so yummy. They're all yummy, and it just tells you how microgreens are up to 40 times more nutritious than a full-grown plant, for example. Now we're right now selling these through pre-orders, but we're going and you'll see those off through my Facebook site. You click that, it'll take you to the Facebook page. So those are local sales, and I do sell worms local, but I haven't really marked this page to account for that. I probably will update that in the not too distant future. And I get going to things like why raise redworms, like if you want to raise them yourself. And it does have a few of my videos in here. And this is talking about really from the standpoint of profitability, how you can really raise as much worm meat as you could have usable meat from a steer in a year off of a plot of land just 8 by 24 feet as opposed to an acre it might require to raise a steer. So what I said, what can I do on my own 2 feet on my own 2 acres? And so this goes into some of the benefits of it for general facts for composting for your garden, if you want to fish or go in the worm business. And here I looked at, we were going into quarantine there a little bit when we started the bug out. So I did a video examining worm farming as a quarantine business. So here is how to raise worms. This video is my most popular video on my website, by the way, and I get referred to as Worm Gandalf by some of the commenters there. So
now I have a question for you. So for the average, let's just say average size backyard garden, square foot gardening, let's say that you have a 15 by 15 foot square foot garden. What is the quantity of worms that you would want to put into the soil for that type of space?
Well, for a garden that size, you might start with, you put a pound would be more than enough for that. But what you might do is start with something like square those what do you call it, can of worms, or the what's the other name for them? There's stackable worm beds you can buy. And the names leading me to my moment, I get brain locked. It's shoot, they call them a worm farm. They're those things would probably raise enough worms and produce enough castings for a small garden. just off and use your kitchen waste to feed the worms, basically.
Mhm.
That would probably be quite sufficient because they double every 2 to 3 months. You just take the excess worms and put them in your garden. That's what you do with them. And that would probably be about the right scale for a small garden. If you're gardening big time, a good sized garden, you'd want to use a few of the Walmart totes. So let me go over here to this video. This is called Worm Videos.
Okay.
And I've organized this page here by what you need to know first and progressively as you need to know it. It doesn't have every video in here, but it's got most of my worm videos are on this page. So it's got the basics, and these are all from my YouTube channel. So this is the intro into worms. You need to know what's covered here because it tells you how not to kill your worms, which is most people make the mistake when they first get the worms of overfeeding them. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that misinform people on how to raise worms. And here I'm showing a video. Yeah, a lot of YouTubers are just out producing videos just to produce videos, I believe. Some of that stuff is garbage, I feel like.
Right.
So here is how to build worm beds. Here I'm putting one inside the other, and that's the technique I prefer. Now, one of these is actually a short one, but it don't have to be. So I'm showing you how to use just these things you buy at Walmart. And I got another video that does that too. And here I'm showing you some quick ways to do worm casting. I'm just using a metal file folder I got from Office Max or someplace like that, and showing you how to separate the worm castings out in here. So it's a free worm bin. Oh yeah, the free worm bin is actually a kitty litter box. Here I show where I've taken IBC totes and cut them in half, and I built the sled runners on the bottom, and I've invented the sled bed worm bed. And I don't, you want to hear some music?
Sure.
Let's see here. Dashing through the mud, and one tractor open sleigh, over the weeds we go, a laughing all the way. Hammers on them old green, making knife edges bright. Oh, how fun it is to laugh and sing a sledding song tonight. Oh, wiggle worms, wiggle all the way. Oh, how fun it is to ride in a one tractor open sleigh. Hey! Through the mud.
That's great, Greg.
Sleigh, over the weeds we go, a laughing all the way.
So what do you feed a worm?
How fun it is to laugh and sing a sledding song tonight. Oh, wiggle worms, wiggle. What was the question now?
No, so what do you feed a worm?
What I feed a worm? Well, that's covered in these videos too. Oh yeah, by the way, the 2 acre farm is really big. You can do a lot on a smaller farm. This is one of 2 videos I did with the family from Pasadena, California. It lives in a big city. And on 1/10 of an acre, their DeVace family, their dad just recently passed away. They used to grow enough food there to feed a family of 4, and they made a living from that 1/10 of an acre in their backyard. So the only thing they didn't raise there was the grain products they ate. But I've got another video I did with another friend, Jason Avers, where we talk about growing a balanced meal to feed a family of 4 off of 1/10 of an acre. So it's amazing what you can accomplish with gardening if you are careful about. Oh yeah, here this is a 5-gallon bucket worm tea brew here, by the way. So let me end this video here. I got to be careful. I don't want to blow it totally out. There we go. So I'm back here. So what you do is you go through here and you see there's some mods I made in my sled beds for I get more directional control with my tractor wheels. I talk about the efficiency of them. Here I'm actually unpacking worms in Arizona. I shipped the worms to Arizona and I got there before the post office delivered them.
Wow.
and I unpacked them and built using some cheaper totes than these, but I built some worm beds in this video. So you can see that 2 different ways and see what it looks like to be on the receiving end of getting worms I ship. So, and by the way, I have 40 acres in Arizona right now, so I'm going to be doing more out there in the not too distant future. So before you feed them, you got to build the worm beds. You got to find out what to use for bedding. And my favorite bedding is wood chips, but it takes them longer to break down. Horse manure is a pretty good bedding. It's got its drawbacks. These videos go all into that. What not to put in a worm bed used to be the best thing to put in a worm bed, and that was the gin trash or cotton hulls out of the cotton gins. So I explained why it used to be the best thing and why now it's the worst thing. And here I go into feeding worms. Now, so you can feed worms your kitchen scraps. What most people need to feed is kitchen scraps. I did cover this in some of the earlier videos, like 5 key things for feeding or for caring and taking care of worms. What you don't want to use is anything that's spicy, because a worm's body is like the inside of your mouth. It's a mucous membrane, like soft tissue. So they're sensitive to things that would burn in your mouth, for example. So don't feed them hot peppers, spicy food. Don't feed them a citrus feed because it's too acidic, or tomatoes. Besides that, tomato seeds will last and survive inside the worm castings. And when you later plant, if you're trying to sell tomatoes, you don't know if it's the tomato seed you put in there or the one you planted in there that's coming up. So I wouldn't put tomatoes in a worm bed. And just for sanitary reasons, I wouldn't put milk or meat products because it attracts too many other pests. It's not that the worms have a problem, it just attracts things you don't want in your bins, and including animals. So what I feed most, and hey, the manures are a feed too, but I also feed my worms some non-GMO, and I'm very organic. So not, see, it says GMO free, said on the package there, GMO free chicken laying, chicken starter feed, basically. And here I talk about how to feed and water worms. And here I talk about insect control using dolomite, which is crushed limestone. And then I get into a couple other things like, you know, do you have pot worms? And I got to make a few other videos like this and add into the series. If you don't have any baby worms, what you might need to do, some signs your worm bed's too wet, how to keep them warm in the winter, how to brew. I got 2 worm tea brewing videos here. This one's got your smaller brews. It may show my bucket, may show my pickle bar. I don't know. This is if you want to brew 250 gallons.
Yeah, that's
if you,
huge.
if you really want a lot of worm tea, you might go swimming in that. No, I wouldn't. Don't go swimming. How to do a quick harvest. I built a trommel. This is a homemade trommel. You can buy these things for about $3,000, built by other people. You know, there's that quick cast harvest. So now we're getting into harvesting the product. So what I did, you know, I said, hey, what's the basis on worms? How do you build a bed? What do you put in the bed? How do you feed and care for the worms? And then I go into the products and the harvesting of them. And then I even covered, you know, tips for loading up horse manure. So that's a pretty comprehensive set of videos for
it really is.
So I try to cover the gauntlet. And one of these days I will probably do a course, online course for worm raising, worm farming, and particularly maybe a special course for those that want to do it commercially. Because I think the key thing you want to watch about that's how you scope what you're doing, so you don't bite off too much, as I'm all too often led to do. But I have other videos here like gardening videos. This gardening video tab covers 3 different topic areas, if it will go there. It covers raised bed gardens, microgreens, and aquaponics. And so there's a lot of the video devoted to just the preparation. Oh, it's loading slowly. Of the raised bed. And even when I show planting gardens, most gardening YouTube channels don't go that much into, you know, raised bed preparation. But if you want to grow organically and you don't want to have to go to the store, this is what you really need to know. The planting the seeds part isn't the big deal. It's how you prepare your beds that you really need to pay a lot of attention to. There we go. Now you can start to see them. And see, my raised beds are lined with logs that I took off my property when I cleared it. Those logs are getting rot down. I'll probably go back and use blocks soon. 2 of my favorite crops are turmeric and garlic. So I'm showing a lot of videos on those. Rattlesnake beans, I love those. And I'm a busy guy. A lot of times stuff gets away from me, and I'll show you how to top tomatoes when it's really too late. Here's that seed survival video here. There's 2 videos of the vase family. I go into garlic, growing it, taking care of it, pest, turmeric, sharpen the scythe. And I love to pull up briars with my bare hand. Essential tools, I talk about the tools you need for the garden. And sometimes I use a little humor in talking about tools, as you see. So, and then here's microgreens, how to grow microgreens live with no soil. And these videos are all made, of greens I grew in my living room at the time. All those are living room videos. And here I'm talking about aquaponics.
Mm-hmm.
That's my aquaponics.
This is really a wealth of information. I've never seen anybody go into such detail. And this is really fantastic, and it's so user friendly for somebody that's just starting out and the avid gardener that has been gardening for a very long time. So I love your website. Congratulations on this. And
well, thank you. And I have a little fun with stuff. Even though I'm a doomsday prepper, I always like to maintain some humor. Like you can eat the maple seeds, so I call it eating maple helicopters. Have you eaten your helicopter today? The number one wild edible, I say, eat the weed that's eaten in America. Believe it or not, that's kudzu. And then I talk about, kudzu's edible. It's in the bean family. Just about you can eat anything except the woody part of it.
I didn't know that.
See, I might have just saved your life. I think there's a little bit of that. Last time I looked in the Atlanta area, there was kudzu. In fact, I think one of the wild edible videos I did, I filmed part of it outside of a huddle house or waffle house in Atlanta. I was actually finding wild edibles in the lawn outside. I said, hey, you're probably better off eating what's growing in the lawn than you would eat what they're selling inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Goldenrod is amazing for your kidneys, while lettuce has got a lot of great painkiller properties to it. Dandelions are second to none for both a lot of medicinal purposes and as an edible. And then, did you know you could eat trees? So eat your trees, please. And I show these kids sitting at the table eating, right? Hey, that's part of my humor again. Eat your trees, please. So, beauty berries is a mosquito repellent, which they grow a lot here in the South. Persimmons, I love persimmons. One of my favorite fruit. And we had the toilet paper preppers. They went nuts over toilet paper. Well, if you're in the right time of the year, there's no better toilet paper than the leaves of the oak leaf hydrangea plant. I grew up using it. Lamb's quarters is wild spinach. This is your Korean perilla here, mystery perilla. Then I did a video on both narrow leaf and broadleaf plantain. This stuff is good for spider bites, bee bite stings, mosquito bites. It's even been used for snake bites. So
I never knew that. And when I was a girl, every spring I was like a puppy that would want to run out into the yard. And sure enough, of course, I'm running without my shoes on, and we had clover in our backyard. And I would step on a honeybee and get stung. And my father would use one of those leaves, one of the broadleaf plantain leaves.
Chew it up, make a poultice out of it. Yeah.
He would put a paste of baking soda on the leaf and put it on the bottom of my foot, and he would take the stinger out, and you just pull the stinger out, and you're perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the video that part of it was filmed in somewhere in Georgia, I think around Atlanta. So, and then Curly Doc. Well, eat Mo, Curly Doc. And he's got a stethoscope. Curly's wearing a stethoscope here. So I had to find a picture of Curly wearing a stethoscope. Eat Mo, Curly Doc. Like I said, that is actually a maypop there. I don't tell you what it is. Eat this. Well, they were very wild passion fruit. Maypops are great when they're ripe. They're very tasty. Willow is a painkiller. And I talk about various other, and I got a couple of videos on wild carrots, but you got to be able to identify them and distinguish them from hemlock, which is poisonous. So I got two videos I've devoted to that topic. Eat your briars, just like eat your trees, eat your briars. Most people think this is poison ivy or poison oak, and I got it in my bare hand. I'm explaining, no, this is not poison oak. Poison ivy or not? And the answer is no. So check that out, because I go into some of that stuff that people need to know about. Why I love sheep sorrel, because it's got a nice tangy flavor. But tangy flavor also means it's oxalic acid. You don't want to eat too much of it, but it does taste great, and it's good in small quantities. This is growing out in my yard right now. It was near the end of the season for it. This is a late winter thing that grows here in the South a lot. It's called purple dead nettle. It's in the mint family. And here I talked about greens and eating in the wintertime. Chickweed typically grows here in the South in the wintertime, and you can eat this through most of our winter. And one thing you can always eat is the cambium level layer inside of wood. You can get it out of the twigs or even out of the tree trunks. And then making Tamiflu from sweet gum. The most important video would be this one: how to filter and sanitize, or purify and sanitize, which is two different things, water. And I show many methods to doing it here. This really should have been my most popular video, and people need to consider this because this is what can make, you can only live 3 days without water, folks. You might live 30 days without food. And everybody's worried about the food. You need pure, clean water. So this is an important video to check out.
You know what? I actually have a fellow producer, and we were talking about this show, and that was his main question. He said, I'm going to try to catch the show, and he wants me to make sure that I ask you, if we need to filter water, what is the best and easiest way to do so to make it drinkable?
Well, the first thing is to get the bigger particles out of it. So that's why you might start with grasses and leaves on top of whatever you're using to filter it. Now, in this video, I show you how to do it with a small plastic bottle, but you got to run it through a bunch of plastic bottles. A larger container would be better. Basically, you set it up with leaf matter in here, and you can see I've got gravel right there. I put a piece of gravel and stop up the entrance, and then I got sand, and I've got basically charcoal down here. Don't use charcoal you buy from the store. It's got chemicals in it. Make your own charcoal from a fire. Or if you can buy activated charcoal in a bag, and it's pure, clean, activated charcoal, like they typically use in water filters, that would be the best. But if you're out in the woods, you're not going to have that available to you. But you just take and make charcoal from the burnt wood in your campfire and crush it up into a powder, grind it into a powder with rock, and that's how you get this. So one thing you could do is you could take 5-gallon buckets and drill holes in them and and put them inside of each other, and each bucket would have one of these layers in it. So that's one way to scale it up. Now, I've also in this video I show the Sawyer straws, the Life straws, things like Berkeley type water filters. Mine's a 4Pure, the ceramic filter, and I talk about the merits of those and how you really can't get viruses out with a filter. That's why purifying water, which is making it clean, is different than sanitizing water, which is killing the bad stuff in it. I've even talked about in this video how to take a clear plastic bottle, glass don't work for this, put it out in the sun and let the UV kill the bacteria inside. But that water's got to be purified, because if it's got turbidity in it, the sunlight, the UV won't shine through it. And glass stops a lot of UV. That's why you actually want a plastic bottle for that. Now, this plastic bottle is a little bit small to use for this purpose, but yes, this is a torturous way to get there, and it will work, especially if you boil water. Now, the cool thing about making your charcoal is you're also using a fire, which gives you a way to boil water. You can also use there are various tablets that you can put in your water, iodine and various different things to, or even a little bit of Clorox. I'll talk about how to dose the Clorox in your water to sanitize it. So you do want your water sanitized. And one thing you hear in here in the background, you hear someone. Hello, I'm Greg Allison from Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm. Today I'm going to teach you how to filter and sanitize your water by using both natural methods with the charcoal, sand, grass leaves, and rocks, and like a 2-liter bottle. This is actually a 50-ounce bottle, not a 2-liter bottle. A 2-liter bottle would probably be better than this. I will teach you how to use worker water jugs, and I'm going to discuss various other forms of water filters that's on the market. And finally, stay tuned for my final tip. My final tip is going to be how to sanitize your water without using a fire or any chemicals like Clorox or iodine. We'll discuss that too. So for starters, we're going to start with this bottle here. and we're going to make it the container for a water filter. And here is one. This is my Pour Pure. This is like a Berkeley filter. So I really think people, preppers, should have some of these filters. You should buy and carry filters for other things. Now that's an old video there. So sometimes I like to cut up my videos. This is why, what to do when they come for your food. This was a live session I did recently down here. Here I'm talking about power grid defense. I've got a lot of videos I talk about power grid defense. I've chaired 2 power grid defense conferences. I have chaired a space development conference, an international space development conference. I've done a lot of different things in my life. So, and I've run for my life from rockets too.
Yes, we were talking about that before the show, but while we're on YouTube, you have a very interesting video as we're talking about the world of prepping. This is a bug out video, and I'd love for you to give the description, give the definition. What is having a bug out plan? What is that?
Okay. There's 2 different concepts of what to do when it hits the fan. One is called bug in, and one is called bug out. Bug in is you stay in your home. You try to tough it out where you're at. And for some people, seniors and other people, they may have challenges bugging out. The bug out is where you leave your premises and go to another place. Now, some people are very fortunate. They have had the time and money to build shelters, maybe dug in bunkers and places like that in a bug out location, or maybe it's just a homestead. But they got a place to go when it gets bad. Cities are going to be a very bad place to be. You do not want to be in a city when it hits the fan, because you've got a food desert full of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in the case of a mega city, maybe up to 20 million or more people.
Right.
In an asphalt concrete construct with very little means for growing food. That's a whole lot of hungry people without any food. Based on a situation like that, you look like a pork chop. You don't be the pork chop. Or we also refer to that as long pork. Don't be long pork. You want to get out to the cities. That would be my advice. So I've had people say, well, what's your best advice for bugging out? And one person said, in Las Vegas, Nevada. I said, get out of town. Get out of Las Vegas. That's my best advice. I was honestly brutal with them. Cities are going to be a bad place to be. Very bad. The mayhem will be off the charts. It doesn't mean some people won't survive, but your prospects are very, very, very dismal. And you're probably going to see the most horrible things you could never want to imagine. So I don't even want to talk about that, except get out. So
right.
that would be a case where you'd want to bug out.
Okay. So now what about location?
Well, location also drives whether you want to stay in place or leave. Mm-hmm. Some locations are good and some are bad. If you live in an area that, there's different kind of threats we could have. It might just be economic threat. The economy goes in the tank. We could lose our power grid. That's what I worry about the most, because there's so many ways that we could lose our power grid, and the consequences are horrific beyond imagination, because our electric power is the key Achilles heel for all of our other critical infrastructure systems, such as banking, such as water. All the water is pumped by electrical pumps.
It's gasoline.
There'll be no communications. Yeah, you won't be fuel. Like, oh, well, I drive my car, I'll be fine. Well, it takes electricity to pump fuel, to pump water, to pump. We use it in our bank accounts. It's we're totally dependent these days on. There was once a time that banks skip everything on a paper ledger, but now everything is computerized. When the computers go down, your money goes poof. At least what's in the bank. So there's a lot of things to consider about that. But here's what there was congressional task force, an MP congressional task force that briefed Congress, I think about 14 years ago. And what their analysis had told them that within a year of having no electricity in the United States, 9 out of 10 people would perish from societal collapse. And a lot of that will be spread of disease. And of course, there will be some mayhem and people that are bad actors too. So there's a lot to contend with in a situation like that. But I think they, by and large, figured that people in the rural areas would be a lot better off than what they're really probably going to be, because I've surveyed farms and found that maybe at best only 1 out of 8 farmers is really growing a garden of any consequence. So a lot of farmers are going to be starving to death on their farms. I did a video on that too. So why farmers will starve to death, why preppers will starve to death. I've covered these things in a number of videos. So if you look at this, I cover many different threats. So the grid down is one threat. A tsunami is a potential threat. A tsunami can occur from a volcanic explosion in an ocean, from a huge earthquake, landslide within the ocean itself, from an asteroid striking the Earth, because the Earth is mostly water. So the most likely area to get hit is going to be the ocean. That can cause an enormous tsunami. And unfortunately today, the Russians have developed a weapon system called the Poseidon 6. No, the Poseidon or Status 6, excuse me. It's called the Poseidon Torpedo or Status 6. It is a nuclear engine powered torpedo with an infinite range of how far it can go. It is sized to be able to carry the largest nuclear device they've ever devised, which is twice as big as the largest one ever tested. A 100 megaton SAR bomber.
Wow.
50 megaton one was the largest one tested. And they have even talked about cobalt salt in some of these devices, so that they will put out very radioactive water. And they've talked about putting 2 megaton warheads in them too. A 2 megaton warhead would take out a large city or more, a few cities maybe, with a huge tidal wave. The 100 megaton SAR bomber could possibly take out an entire coastline with a ginormous radioactive tsunami that would sweep miles inland. So this is not a pretty picture. 3 of those could basically deny the United States access to the ocean, but one off the Pacific, one off the Atlantic, one in the Gulf of Mexico. The remnant of the United States to be landlocked. That with an EMP explosion that would take out our power grid, America would be in a very bad situation. And a lot of people don't realize is Russians have developed a EMP super weapon, which has 4 times more power on the ground than we built our in terms of radiated electricity, like 200,000 watts per meter, per meter, as opposed to the 50,000 watts per meter that were originally hardened or mill hard facilities to. Not all military systems are hardened either, but that's what you would use to respond to an attack like that, so that that theoretically they wouldn't want to attack us because it'd be mutually assured destruction. But they might be able to short circuit our mutually assured destruction, and we might not be able to respond at all. If they get that idea, they might think, well, why don't we just take America out and get them out of our way, and the world's ours. That's a temptation you don't want them to have. That's why we need to harden our power grid. But right now we've not done it. So and we need to do more work in hardening and putting more redundancy into our nuclear command and control system structure. So these are things that need to be done. If I were president of the United States, or if I was put in charge of those kind of projects, I know what I'd be focusing on. So in any event, if you go through this video, if you let me play part of it, I started out with some of these things. So you want to be over 500 feet above sea level, I would say, at least.
Okay.
You want to be away from your cities. You want to be away from a nuclear power plant. You want to be away from military bases, which are all targets for a nuclear war. And I got another video very much like this, where it's called Nuclear Bug Out. It goes more into the nuclear aspects of it, radiation and so forth. So big map of the United States here. Some things to consider is you want to be in a place that's, let's say I get a pen there. I'm sorry. You want to be above sea level. You want to be, I would say first and foremost, you want to be above 500 foot sea level, because you can have tsunamis. If one of your it hits the fan scenarios is that you have a tsunami because of a major earthquake, a landslide, asteroid hitting the earth, or the Russians now have a bomb called the SAR bomber, which is put into a torpedo. And they're building these. Okay,
Hmm.
so I already explained all this.
Okay.
I'm being redundant. Sorry about that. Torpedoes, these Poseidon torpedoes. You want me to play this, or you want me to skip ahead, or what do you want me to do?
Well, I think we can skip ahead from this one. You had filled us in pretty well with that.
Here are some of the shorelines to avoid, and it also goes on the west coast. Whoops, we got to add here.
That's okay. That's all right. So that shoreline, that was going to be my next question, which is, all right, so you're giving us, 500
spots
Hang
hiding
on,
back
let me
above
do
sea
this.
level.
Just add and let it play through. Don't skip. Okay,
Okay.
sorry about that. So
All right.
I was also showing growing areas here where you've got, this green line. Green means grow. You can see where I also drew around the western shoreline where you wouldn't want to be here, and a little bit up the middle of the river here. You can get slosh effects in the lakes. So what I've done here is I have shown a green grow line, which is more productive for growing food. So being in this area has actually got its advantages when it comes to growing food. I'll skip ahead. And I'm starting to show the heavy population centers here. That's what I'm beginning to draw circles around. And I'm saying, don't go there, stay out. So I highly
Right.
encourage everybody to watch the whole video because we'll just skip ahead. You see, they start
Oh, my goodness.
multiplying, various reasons. I go into various reasons why you don't want to be in one spot or another.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Green
So
is good.
Oklahoma looks good.
The greens are good. Anything that's green is good, red is bad. It's kind of like green light, red light. So I'm going into why I think these green areas are good, including, the Ozarks. Austin, I might make that a little greener now since they are working a harder power grid, but still they can't produce their food. Oh yeah, this is a Yellowstone proximity here, which worries me a little bit. This is a huge area that's going to have a lot of fallout from any nuclear attack on the missile bases in the SAC Center up here. Oh yeah, look, so Utah's looking green. So, I've got definitely green areas on here.
Yeah.
So, and I go through various other things. I'm crossing out some of the other countries around us, and I explain that in here. So as you can see, as I go in the video, there's more and more detail, more and more explanation. Oh, I drew a skull and a crossbones down here.
It looks like Los Angeles is the last place you want to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in Los Angeles. I actually did a video just on that. Why? You got about 2 million people in this basin. I actually did a special video on Los Angeles. 2 million people in this basin. And if you have enough earthquakes and those freeways break down, they're basically trapped there between the ocean and the mountains. So that's not going to be a good place to be. And I even talked about some other countries. And so I kind of travel around the world here a little bit in that video using Google Maps. So that kind of takes you to that. Do you want to see this first 24-hour in case of a nuke video now, or you want to talk?
I do. That was the other video that I was watching that I found to be very interesting. It is so it says first 24 hours, what to do after EMP or getting nuked with Stacy, which is a guest of yours on your show. And she has a very interesting point that you had mentioned on the show is a pivotal point. It is something that we really need to be thinking about and have a plan.
Yeah, in fact, what people don't think about or talk about on prepping channels usually is the kids. Well, here we go.
So that's the get home for us. I'm here, secure the property, and for you out there, whoever is closest to the children, if your kids are in public school, you have to have that plotted out. Okay. If the wife is gone for the day, she's driving 50, 60 miles away, husband is 10 miles away from the kids. All right, today, dad gets the kids. But on a normal day, if mom is within 3 miles of the kids, mom gets the kids. Ride, bike, do whatever he has to get there to get in there and get those kids. Now, be warned, the schools may be on lockdown and tell you can't get your kids. And that's a fact. And there's another possibility, as I've talked to teachers, that they'll just abandon the kids. Because you got to remember, these teachers and these administration people, their parents, they got families of their own, they may not stay. So your priority at that point whoever is closest to those children is to get to that school and get your children. And you get them any way, shape, or form that you can get them. And I
very
mean,
important. That's a very important thing that don't get mentioned often. And that's why it's good to have a woman on here, a lady's perspective. Those kids are
Absolutely. That is a very strong point.
vulnerable,
that's
and
right.
that should be your top. There you go. Do you want to see more of that, or is that gets your
No.
point?
No, I think that gets the point across. And then I have a few other questions, but I don't think that we need the video. But thank you for pulling that up. That is an extremely strong point. However, I believe I have a couple of kids in school. Some of this, I feel like we can feel the escalation to a degree at which I'm no longer going to be comfortable sending my kids off to school.
I can agree with that. The world is getting crazy right now. It's beyond crazy. First we had the pandemic,
Right.
and now we've got we're in a very tense situation with Russia. We could find ourselves in any time, like maybe next month, in the same kind of situation with China.
Yeah.
North Korea is popping off missiles. One time we just all we faced is Russia, but now we got Russia, North Korea, and China, and who knows what Iran's going to be doing.
Yeah, I was about to say, Middle East is not happy with us either.
No. And Iran calls the United States the Great Satan. They don't call Israel the Great Satan. They call the United States the Great Satan. And it's probably because we kicked out their elected president and put a tyrant in charge of them, the Shah of Iran. And we've had a history of doing things that we ought not have done. We pay for it later. And so all the chickens hadn't come home to roost yet. So we've got to be, I don't want to get into the politics of it. Mainly what I try to do is tell people this is more and more reason why you need to be prepared for crazy bad times which can fall upon us. We know through the geological record that bad times happen just through weather and geological events, whether it be a space weather event like the Carrington event, solar coronal mass ejection, whether it be from a volcano going off, an asteroid strike, the cycles of weather. There are catastrophic things that could come to our world. But even sans that, just on a local level, we had tornadoes here. I had an EF5 miss my home by just a little bit over a mile back in 2011. It took out a lot of the high power transfer lines out from the Browns Ferry nuclear power plant. And we were without power for about a week here, in some places a lot longer. And while a lot of people were suffering, I already had the food. I had the little gas powered stove. I had the generator. I had the propane. I was cooking and eating and listening to what was going on around through my battery powered radio. I already had all this stuff. I was already a prepper, so it was like, no big deal. It's might be a little inconvenient, but hey, I didn't have to go into work. I was getting to stay at home and kind of keep up with things. So I used that time. Yeah. Here's the funny thing. My worms actually arrived the day before that tornado hit, my very first worms. And so I used that time to work on my worm farm. So, for me, it was not a bad deal. For some people, it was, pandemonium, and they were scared, and a lot of stuff was bad news for them. But, I was ready. I was prepared. So I tell people, don't be scared, be prepared.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say it again, too. Don't be scared, be prepared, because in this day and age, it just feels like the human psyche of the average American is not where it needs to be for survival. Because all that fear and the freaking out and the pandemonium, I think, has a high mortality rate.
Well, panicking is one of the most dangerous things you can do. When people panic, they're not thinking. And I tell people, if you lose your head, you might really lose your head. Mm-hmm. So, you need to stop, take stock of things, and think. Thinking will save you a lot faster, usually, than pandemonium. People make a lot of stupid mistakes when they panic. So, I watch one YouTube channel says, "Don't panic now, but I'll tell you when to panic." No, never panic, never panic. That don't mean you shouldn't get in a hurry sometimes. I mean, you know, there is that flight or fight syndrome. You know, if you got a tiger chasing you, you know, you might not want to stand still, although you can't outrun a tiger. If you run from it, he's going to equate you to being prey. But if he's already running at you, you probably, if you're standing there, you better have something to jab him with, or maybe you need somewhere to duck that he can't get to.
Yeah.
You better take action in that case. I can see the flight or flight there, but or fight or flight, excuse me. But you know, just panicking is not going to serve you.
No, absolutely not. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time this evening. You've shared so much, and you share so much out there with the world. So, you know, again, on your website, the donate button is active. And if someone was to donate towards your cause, what does that money go towards?
It goes to operating my farm. But you know, I've got something else that I have a long-term goal. Maybe I should do a share again. I've got a long-term goal. There's something I want to build that will be a game changer in the way we live in our world. Let's see if I can find it. Let me get out of this video. I'll try to go back up to my channel here. Now, one thing, again, the channel is Green Greg's. It's right there. It is Green. Go to YouTube and just type in Green, put a space, and Jerry GS, no apostrophe. But if you ever want to really find all the videos on the channel, just click on videos, and you can scroll through and you can sort them by usually the default is the newest is up front. But yeah, here's the status of my worms. Talking about when I'll be selling worms again. So if you want to see what my worms look like right now, click on that video. And then you can, but to look for a video, once you're in the videos sort, it's easier to this. We'll do it from other tabs in there. Just click this. And let's see, what was I going to show you? I want to show you a video. Oh yeah, universal habitat.
Universal habitat. Interesting.
So I've been working on this concept for a home you can live in and make a living out of. Well, this is in South Georgia. You know where that is? That's Plains, Georgia. It's supposed to be a peanut with a Jimmy Carter smile. Remember that?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, I do. I wasn't sure if that was a head of a dinosaur or what that was. But I see the peanut now.
If you remembered the 70s, you would remember that peanut from back then. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not a Carter fan, but it made for an interesting thing because he started humble from a small rural town in Georgia and became president of the United States. So this is a Mars simulation, actually, of my habitat concept there. But this is the one I like. This is Green Greg's Universal Habitat. The whole point of this is a home you can live in, make a living out of, grow all your food in, and it would really cut down on infrastructure needed for floors above the living area, like a foot thick or better. So what you would do, got to add, shoot. Well, at least it's a natural greenhouse, a garden, right?
Yeah, it's applicable.
So if you could go in here and look at this, this is the outdoor. I actually hired a architect to make this concept look pretty for me, to do the architectural work on it. And she is based out of Tunisia, Tunisia, the young girl who was my architect in this. So this is a home that you can grow. This is like the DeVase family with growing on top of your roof instead of just in the backyard. So the whole footprint of the home is 1/10 of an acre. And this is a concept for a side view looking at this thing. But this one is actually drawn to be, well, that was actually for a Venus habitat, believe it or not. So I've come up with the concepts for how to put these basically anywhere in the world, on Mars or even Venus. I've got a concept. Yeah, Venus is 800 degrees hot on the surface, but if you're 30 miles in the atmosphere, it's actually room temperature, and the pressure is the same as Earth, and the gravity is the same, unlike Mars. So,
oh, you're kidding! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is my Venus habitat. And this is the beginnings of architectural work on it. That's the Mars habitat, which is a sim. And I'm just showing various calculations and things. Oh yeah, that I think calculation is showing how yeah, she's my architect.
Mm-hmm.
Where's it at?
Oh, it's really, I mean, it
I'm getting
looks
better.
so lush and wonderful. I love it.
Well, the cool thing is you can grow all your food right there at home. It's all
Mhm.
fresh. It's all the optimum nutrition because food starts losing its vitamin content after you harvest it. So this is fresh food. It doesn't have any chemicals in it. It doesn't require fuel and refrigeration to transport it. So it's from, you know, from garden to fork, basically, to mouth, right there in your house, in your home. It's got huge advantages to growing this way. And you could actually grow everything a family of four would need. So this home is sized for a family of four and a family of four size garden on a 1/10 of an acre. But it's actually more than that because the way I've got a basement in here. So it actually could be far more productive than that. And you can have shops in there where you could produce things in your shop, including you could have like anything from a potter wheel to loom to server farm, you know, just whatever you're inclined to do that way. You could also add mushrooms to grow in there or a worm farm, internal aquaponics. You could have, so you could actually have a lot more growing area.
Now,
And if you
is
don't
it,
want to grow, if you don't have a green thumb, we'll eventually have 3D printer type robotics that could grow your food for you.
okay. Now, is this a closed structure?
Yes, it is. It is.
So now, what about your pollinators? How do,
You can open it up to let pollinators in, and you could
okay.
also network these if you're in a community to have pollinators come through them. But you know, you would only have to open it when you wanted the pollinators in there. This is actually big enough. You could have some pollinators resident in the home itself. So here I'm talking about takes 1,996 pounds of food to feed the average American. A lot of people live on much less. And so this goes into how much you can actually grow on a 1/10 of an acre. The DeVace family was producing over 7,000 pounds of food. How you could actually increase that if you're like in a Mars, a Venus habitat, by putting in extra CO2. Going back to my Venus stuff, there's the Earthship homes, showing an analogy to that. So there's, you know, I cover a lot of stuff in this, but I actually want to build a prototype of this, maybe a couple of them, one here and one in Arizona. So right now, my farm exploits are really building blocks for this. There's an ad. They're all building everything I'm doing with worm farming and microgreens and aquaponics and the raised bed gardens. And this is mostly raised bed. The Vase family grew everything in raised bed gardens. So it's just primitive raised bed gardens. You would also think about a home like this, it's going to have enough thermal mass that the whole idea is you won't have to heat and cool it like we do regular homes. It will, you can actually cool it from the ground, air pulled up from the ground through heating the air in the greenhouse portion, and you could vent it out and pull cool air through your house to cool it. And then you could use the greenhouse, the thermal mass to heat your home. You wouldn't even need a greenhouse really. The thermal mass is going to take care of most of your needs for temperature control. So
Wow.
it's you're going and the home heating and home cooling are huge energy consumers in America. You're not going to need a lot of electrical power when you don't have to heat or cool your home. If you're using solar to heat your water for hot water, which I advocate that too. And if you're growing all the food you need out of your home, you're going to eliminate a lot of the needs for trucking and refrigeration. Plus, if you're making a living out of your home, either through the food or through some other industry you're running out of your basement, then, or like I'm making a living right here, but we can do a lot of stuff these days remotely. My friends, you're not going to need so much driving. You're not, in fact, our society won't need the highways, the pipelines. You're harvesting rainwater off your roof. You can get all the water you need really from doing that. Those little Earthship houses in the desert of Taos, New Mexico are getting most of their water from just a subsection of the roof where it only rains 10 inches a year. So we can do a lot with recycling water. And they don't really truly recycle. They just put it through a 4-stage use. As a space guy, I'm more interested in recycling it. And aquaponics also uses far less water than regular growing. So there's a lot we can do not using the stuff we have. Let me stop the share here. There's a lot we can do that would really, really almost eliminate our footprint in the environment. We could almost totally eliminate our footprint. And the UN at one time was saying it would take, the Earth's population would probably peak at 9 billion people. And some are saying it'll go higher than that. And then they think the population will actually start dropping. And we see in industrialized societies that we don't have a replacement population. We're just not reproducing ourselves. That may actually be an issue. But I could take 9 billion people, put them in homes like this where they're producing everything they need in their homes, and put it all in the area. How much area do you think it would take to take care of the world's population like that?
Oh God, I have no idea. A lot less than what we're using now.
How about an area the size of Texas and New Mexico?
That's it.
Or half of Alaska.
Really?
Yeah, that's all it takes. Really. I wouldn't put everybody in the same spot, but see, they tell us there's not enough room on our planet. We don't have enough room. There's so many people that you can't do this, you can't do that, we can't have this, we can't. You would be living at a standard of living that would be equal or exceed the standard of living you're living today.
Mm-hmm.
And having almost no impact on the environment. Zip. We might have to strip off coal fields and set coal on fire just so we don't go into an ice age.
Right? Oh my goodness. Wow, that's phenomenal.
And
that
it would be far more economical. These homes could be built. You don't have to have the roof girdered in steel and glass, especially if you're in the tropics. You don't even need it. You might be putting up shade cloth at most.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that poor people couldn't live this way. There's no reason that we couldn't build these homes through, like barn raisins like people used to do. The walls could be made out of sandbags, or they could be 3D printed with a 3D printer concrete, made, very little labor. So if you need less labor, 3D print it. If labor is not the objective, but if you don't want to have to go buy materials, you can use old tires to build it, pound the sand and dirt into the tires, and you're recycling. Or sandbags. That's I think sandbags is less labor intensive than tires if you're going to be filling them with dirt. But so there's many approaches you can go about building a home like this. My philosophy, though, is give you enough area to grow your food in it and to have sufficient thermal mass that you can, walls like 18 to 24 inches thick, so that you don't have to provide a lot of additional heat and cooling. You could do it all through with combinations of greenhouse and pulling air through the ground. So there's so much we can do to live better. I don't want to now a lot of people come with a concept like this, then we need to force everybody to do this or that. That's how a lot of people think. I don't believe in that kind of philosophy. I say this: let's come up with an idea. Let's make it so beautiful, so great that people couldn't imagine that they'd want to be anywhere else.
Right, exactly.
If they do, okay, more power to them. But that's my philosophy. I think by using bottle walls and different techniques, these could be very artistic, very beautiful, very affordable. Your energy bill will be zip. You don't have to drive all over the place. You may not even need a car or insurance or paying gasoline. Just think if you can eliminate the cost of gasoline, your electric bill, you can eliminate your food bill. So your electric bill, your food bill, your insurance for your car. Just think of all the money you don't need on those things.
Right, exactly. It's astronomical.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, congratulations on just bringing it thus far. And the renderings are gorgeous. I love it. I can't wait to see where you go with it. And this has been a phenomenal conversation. I think we could go on for more and more hours, and I'd love to have you back on the show again very soon. Greg, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've shared with us this evening and what you're doing. You're helping people get started. And, in the topic of sustainability and prepping and everything that could happen, it's coming mainstream, as you had mentioned earlier. It's in our faces. We need to be prepared. And I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for having those videos accessible to people for free.
Exactly. Well, they got to put up with a few commercials, but you do that in any medium anyway. So the cool thing is I'm trying to put a lot of information and content out there that help people. And a lot of my videos are about what's going on in the world, but I do that so that people will focus on the points I'm making about what's going on in the world. It's really not about that. It's really about preparing. I put that out there so that you'll know that you need to prepare, so you can share them with your family members so they see how crazy the world is. Don't pay no attention. Don't pay much attention now if I'm, if it looks like I'm way in toward one side of some spectrum, ignore all that. It's really about preparing, getting people prepared. I hope it don't hit the fan. And where I differ from a lot of prepper channels is that usually at the end of my videos, I'm talking about things that they can do, my viewers can do as preventative actions to try to keep it from hitting the fan. I've actually started another group called the Freedom Restoration Foundation, and we got a website with an action center telling people how to contact some people exactly all the steps to contact the Congress critters so they can do things to help us stay out of these things. I've chaired 2 Power Grid defense conferences. I'm involved in 2 national level Power Grid defense organizations to try to get the right attention to securing our grid, safe in our nuclear power plants. I got too many irons in the fire. That's why I can use some help. And that's why we're building these organizations. You'll find links in my videos about how to build these organizations. I'm trying to build a network of survival tribes to make it through all this stuff. So my hope is first that we keep things, that we don't have a nuclear war, that we can prevent it. Secondly, that we can prevent our power grid going down. But there's still a huge chance that things will go awry. And for that reason, we do need to prepare. And if it does hit the fan, the objective is this: to be able to stand up, shake it off, and build a better world.
That's right.
That's
right.
And I believe we can do that. I believe we can make this world better if we can just keep ourselves from blowing it up.
Exactly. Amen to that.
The first meeting of Planet of the Apes, the astronauts come back and they think they're on a foreign planet, another star system. The very end of the movie, they go up the beach and they walk, and Carlton Heston's character, he looks up and sees the Statue of Liberty and runs, and he just pounds his fist in his sand. He's mad because he knew we blew it up. So let's stop that from happening. That's my first choice. An ounce of prevention is worth a gallon of cure. Let's stop the madness. But if it does come to pass, let's at least be able to build a better world. But I prefer to rebuild this world, make it better if we can. But I close a lot of my videos this way, especially my live sessions. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I try to do this. I try to tell people the following. I say, as light dispels dark, love dispels hate. Go out and shine your love light into the world.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And with that, everybody, I want to thank you so much for watching. This has been the Caffeinated Cooper Show with Greg Allison, which is greengregs.com and Green Gregs on YouTube. Make sure you like, you subscribe, watch all the videos, and you are going to be so filled with so much education about what we need to do, what we need to be prepared with. And as always, we are blessed. You are blessed. Mwah! I love you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Subscribe to the Caffeinated Cooper Show too.
Yes, thank you. Yes, do that too.